We begin today with the latest in Ukraine. Most of the attention is now centering on the southern peninsula of Crimea, which is located on the northern coast of the Black Sea. As geopolitical tensions continue to rise, control over the region is now in question. But for more on the most recent developments, I spoke with RT's Igor Piskunov, and I first asked him to talk about what happened in Crimea today.
Well, I have to say more or less it's been a normal working Tuesday. Lots of people on the streets going about their business. All the roads are open to traffic. Shops are open, cafes, restaurants, schools, etc. Even sometimes when we are filming reports, locals come up to me and say, why is there so many media here still? What are you guys reporting on? There's nothing to report on, which is, I think, a little bit humorous. But it's actually the media, or Western and Ukrainian media, with which many locals are quite disappointed. They're really unhappy with the way the West has been showing the pictures here, the situation here in the Crimea, saying that when they watch some of the U.S. mainstream channels, they get a feeling, after watching those pics of tanks and stuff here, allegedly in the Crimea, they say they have a feeling that there's some sort of a war taking place, and they clearly don't agree with that point of view. In fact, a group of activists held this protest drive on Tuesday in one of the Crimean cities, saying they want the world and the media to pay more attention to how objective their reporting is. In fact, many are saying that they think the situation here in the Crimea is much more calm right now than in the rest of the country. And I think the only remaining tensions which do come up now and then are probably between the so-called self-defense squads and those Ukrainian troops, the remaining Ukrainian troops, which still haven't pledged allegiance to local authorities.
And Igor, there are reports of shots being fired in the air. Have you heard any shots yourself? Does the area seem to be safe?
Well, the city is completely safe. We are in Simferopol right now, which is the capital of the Crimea. Also in Sevastopol, which is the second largest seaport of Ukraine. In general, the situation is pretty calm there. But there was this one incident when tensions rose between one of those self-defense squads, which have been guarding one of the airports here in the Crimea, and 50 Ukrainian troops, along with their officers and representatives of the media, who were actually broadcasting that whole situation live. They marched onto the self-defense squads trying to enter this airport, and they did fire warning shots into the air, asking the troops to stop. And even though it's clearly heard on the video, which was broadcast live, that some of the people in that crowd were trying to provoke the self-defense squad, saying, just fire at us. But they weren't armed, and they were able to resolve the situation from negotiations. No fighting broke out, and we're getting reports now that actually, apparently, they were allowed to enter that airport. And probably right now they are, or allegedly, they are even patrolling it together. But I can't really confirm this information since we are pretty far away from that place right now. But apart from that incident, in general, like I say, the situation is pretty calm.
All right. And elections are planned now for May. That's what we're hearing. What are people on the ground saying about this? What's the reaction to that?
Well, the elections are being planned, or the presidential election is being planned by the new authorities in Kiev. But the locals here are saying, more and more of them, and the local authorities here are also saying that they do not recognize any sort of new decisions coming out of the new authorities, since they think they came to power illegally, and they don't see any legitimacy in these orders. And right now, everyone here is focusing on the upcoming referendum, which should decide whether or not the Crimea should have even more independence from Kiev. And if the presidential election is planned for the end of May, then this referendum is now being planned for the end of March. So perhaps it's during the referendum that we'll find out how much independence from Kiev the Crimeans living here in this part of the country really want. I also think that we'll find out about some economic changes in the financial institutions and structures here, because lots of attention among the locals, lots of discussions right now are focused on how salaries will be paid, pensions, and so on. And well, we've heard from President Putin, president of Russia, who met with the Russian journalists in Moscow, and he did promise financial support from Russia to the Crimea. So this news was greeted with applause here in the Republic. Local authorities say it will be used productively, also to increase the salaries of local civil workers, police, and so on. So I guess the authorities are now focusing more about just working out things here in the Republic independently, sort of, from Kiev, even though this referendum still hasn't been held, and even though the authorities in Kiev altogether say that the Crimeans have no right to hold any type of independence referendum under several new laws which they've just passed there.
Well, it seems there is yet a lot to be determined, and it will all play out in the next few months. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. But RT correspondent Igor Piskunov